Well, wherever you are and however you're listening, whether it be on a Sony Walkman or on your phone or on your digital thing in your car, whatever that is, welcome to the Titus and Sergio Variety Hour podcast. We're back here. We're into week 3 of the AFL season now. It's going very quickly. I'm Sergio Paradise, and joining me as always, a bloke who, as far as I know, has never drunk bootleg scotch at Witches in Britches Theatre Restaurant, Titus O'Reilly.
Not to my knowledge. We should explain to listeners, because you just told me about this story.
Are you a theatre restaurant kind of guy?
No.
No. Especially ones that involve ghouls, witches, vampires, that kind of thing.
Well, that's what it is in Melbourne.
80s
It's an institution in Melbourne, the Witches in Britches restaurant.
It's like Dracula's, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a Dracula.
Some of them are closed down. A few of them are closed down in Melbourne.
Dracula's still going well. You know, there's a Dracula's on the Gold Coast.
Oh, really?
And it does very well. I was up there last year and drove past, and Dracula's. We go there one Saturday night, and no, I don't.
So this is when you have a meal, but there's a show and it's happening all around you.
And there's a show afterwards, and
have you ever been to one of them?
No, but they have like fake spider webs and rubber spiders hanging from the walls. It's supposed to be
awesome,
really scary. And then they do some 80s songs, and all the performers have fake fangs.
So this one in North Melbourne,
yes.
It's been announced,
Up the top
you were telling me earlier, that what have they been caught doing?
Well, apparently, or allegedly, they've been caught that they're brewing their own bootleg moonshine on the premises.
What is this, the Prohibition era?
It's like a bunch of hillbillies out in the Appalachian Mountains. But they've been caught brewing all this different moonshine and putting it into labelled bottles.
Right.
And apparently the way they got caught, some of the staff members, like the waiters, who I believe they too have to dress as vampires. They were thinking there's something very dodgy about this and dobbed them in. So they've sent off all this moonshine to Jim Beam and they've all gone, no, this is
not our product.
This is not our product. This has got like 80%
tasted
ethanol. Yeah. I think
this is way too smooth.
Doesn't have that sort of razor blade down the throat that a good Jim Beam would normally have. So,
they should have sent you in, because if one man can tell different bourbons from the other, it's you.
Absolutely, and I know my ethanol. But that's the thing. They've been charged, and they've said, look, apart from the fact that this is, allegedly fraudulent kind of sort of behaviour, that this gear can kill you.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear about it in Asia sometimes, over there in some Balinese sort of, little side street bar.
Yeah.
The blokes out there brew up all this sort of moonshine and sell it. Yeah, with a bit of metho and a bit of ethanol, bit of colouring and sell it.
Where's the world got to when you can't trust your booze?
At a theatre restaurant.
I think that's a Darwinian principle just running along there nicely. Well, no, I always give lots of people I know have got a mate who will make their own spirits.
Yeah.
And they're always as dodgy as anything.
Could you be bothered? I mean, I've got some mates who brew their own beer, but for them, it's not so much the end result as it's like the journey rather than the destination. It's the process and the creativity they find.
See, I've never been a big subscriber to the theory of, that's the journey, not the destination. I'm one of those people that just want to get to the destination. I'm like, I don't care.
Especially where grog's concerned.
Yeah, people say, don't you feel a sense of accomplishment now that you've done whatever? And I'm like, not really.
No.
I would have preferred, if I could have paid someone else to do it, I would have.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and especially where alcohol's concerned. I mean, that's why they invented Dan Murphy's to sideline all these sort of backyard operators.
Now, speaking of a group of people we're never going to sell moonshine to,
yeah,
allegedly,
yes, our
supporters, we have to thank them. They bring this show to you, to your ears,
and it's real Jim Beam for you guys.
Yeah. We might even go something even a Maker's Mark. What's a premium bourbon? I'm trying to think of it. There's a few
Jack
around.
Daniels, the Jack Daniels Black Label.
Right.
This is pretty good. So I'm told. I'm a simple kind of guy. I'm pretty much a Jim Beam White Label kind of guy.
With Coke?
No, Diet Coke.
Diet Coke? You're an enigma.
I find the Coke too sweet, strangely enough. I can have one.
But we should add that you're 18 years old.
Yes, that's true. It's a bit like Ouzo and Coke or Southern and Dry. But Well, we were just, we're digressing enormously already at the start of this show.
Gee, our listeners won't be used to that.
No, but I was talking to friends the other day, and I was at a barbecue, and somebody brought up, what's the spirit that you still can't drink generally after having a bender when you're about 18 or 19?
Like that set you off for life.
That you cannot touch, and mine's tequila.
You can't touch tequila?
Cannot touch a tequila. Now, just the smell of tequila. Because I ended up having a poker night at a mate's place and just drinking tequila all night and losing all my money and then having to drive home the next morning. Obviously, probably still.
I'm glad you said the next morning.
Full as a state school, yeah. But yeah, tequila's mine. What's yours?
Oh, I don't have one. Only weak people throw up on alcohol.
Southern Comfort was a big one.
See, I never...
Stone's green ginger wine.
Oh, I remember that's a great drink that everyone remembers because they stole it from their parents.
Yeah.
Like, no one actually drinks that, do they, in real life?
No, so you could steal the Stones from your mum and dad's
because no one would notice it, but gone.
Yeah, but even if they did, because of the dark green bottle, you could top it up with water and couldn't tell from the outside. Bit like vodka.
Right, but people do tend to notice when you...
Yeah, when Dad's onto his fifth vodka and going, Jesus, this is weak vodka. Yeah.
He's still making sense. No, I don't really have a drink that I can't drink.
Oh, geez, you're...
But, you know.
In the minority there.
Well, it's called being an alcoholic,
yeah,
Serge.
being tough, it is.
No, it's called alcoholic. We should do. Thank you to our supporters. We'll get back to business, Serge. None of this memory lane
digressing
stuff on your
witches and britches and theatre restaurants.
This is
vampires.
This is technically a sports podcast. So thanks to our supporters. People are still signing up. We really appreciate that. Now, we're going to be announcing soon. I've seen a draft itinerary. You haven't yet.
No, but we are actually going to do this.
It's on a need-to-know basis.
I'll just be told where I have to be and when.
No, we are going to... We've got a draft itinerary that we've been working on of a couple of tours later this year. One's relatively soon.
Actual tours?
Yeah, we'll announce the whole thing. So we're looking.
But we had to wait for Adele to leave the country to announce our tour.
Yeah, her and we do similar venues.
Yeah, we didn't want to, step on her.
We are going to bring you to the stage in a box,
but
not take
just
you
leave me there. Like the Gimp in Pulp Fiction.
Technically, Serge is in this box.
Yeah.
You won't see him, but he's in there.
And then you saw it in half. Just the chainsaw. This isn't a magic trick. We're just going to saw it in half.
I just don't like him. Anyway, so for our supporters, people who've become supporters, you'll be notified first of our tour dates and ticket sales, and you'll get first chance to buy tickets.
Yes.
We're working out all the things around
this
that.
Is to defeat scalpers too.
Yeah, well, also, you'll be able to sleep with Serge.
Yes.
He made me put that in the box. That's probably going to cost us a few supporters.
We'll have a little webcam inside.
No, we are going to do some nice things for supporters. So become a supporter today at TitusO'Reilly.com. Go there and look for our supporter thing, and we really do appreciate it because it means we can do all this. Now let's get into business finally. We're 8 minutes in and we haven't even got to anything resembling.
I still think we can wring more out of theatre restaurants.
Now we should add the AFL last week made the decision to keep the grand final at 2:30, surprising many people. There was a big push that this was going to be the year.
Did they make the decision, or did they just make the announcement? Was this a foregone conclusion?
Oh no, I think they were genuinely pretty recently thinking about doing it.
Well, I must admit, it took me a bit by surprise. I thought when the announcement came out, it was going to go to the Twilight. So I was a bit surprised to hear that.
I think they did, and then
maintaining the status quo.
They looked into the mess it would create because you've got all these events.
There's a lot to it
that are totally set up based around a 2:30. And even they almost need to give a year or so's notice because a year out, packages, tour deals, hotel bookings, everything, already being worked out.
Every club was from day one, almost since the end of last season, selling packages that guarantee you.
That's right.
So there's the lunch or the brunch.
But then like the North Melbourne's most famous, but there's all the breakfasts that have already been booked.
Yep.
Because you got to get the venue. It's the busiest day. So you almost, if you're going to change it, you can't sort of do it like round one. You could probably got to do it like for the year after or so, which is I think where they're getting to. The other thing they said is they couldn't really justify it based on all that stuff. But the thing really is fans are massively against this.
Well, they are. And look, I've always
The AFL's own polling shows that.
Yeah, well, there you go. That'll be accurate then, won't it? But
not it's accurate when it doesn't help
when
their
it
argument.
doesn't help. Yeah, you're right. Look, I've always been a bit in two minds thinking, yeah, I understand that, a twilight or a night game will make for a better spectacle for spectators at the ground and on TV. But then just the other day, I saw one of those great photos from last grand final day with the Bulldogs in the middle with the confetti, and behind the MCG you can still see a bit of blue sky, and I thought, yeah, it is going to be very different. I'm not sure if I'm ready for that yet.
I like how it is.
Yeah.
And you know me, I don't like change even when it's for the better.
Yes.
Just change never.
Yeah. Maintain the status quo.
It's why I don't have a mobile phone. All I've got is one of those rotary dial ones.
And a couple of carrier pigeons in a cage out the back.
Which makes it very hard to tweet off. But I do think that it sort of just works. I don't see the point of changing it. TV networks will like it because they think they can charge more ads for ads in prime time exception. The AFL like it because they think they can use fireworks to distract us from how bad the halftime entertainment actually is.
Yeah.
So but you're still going to have Meatloaf equivalent with just fireworks around it.
Well, they were saying too that, I mean, I don't know whether the AFL said this, officially, but the suggestion was that they were shopping round, quote unquote, for a really big act.
And U2 were the one.
U2 or Foo Fighters. Now, you got no chance of getting U2. They're not going to come out to play 3 songs at half time.
They will if you get enough money to them.
Oh, yeah, they don't need the money. Foo Fighters might. But see, in the past, they've tried to get big acts that are touring at the time.
Yeah.
And it's all sometimes been a bit hard. That's how they ended up with old Meatloaf. There was some talk Elton John's going to be in town later this year, but do you really want to hear Candle in the Wind at halftime of the footy? The Dead Princess Die song, or Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, or, so I don't know. There's a whole heap of reasons, but I tend to just be a bit glad that it's going to be during the afternoon again this year.
I liked it because...
It'll go nighttime eventually, but...
But I liked it because you can drink at breakfast in public and no one judges you.
Yeah, well, you still could if it was at night.
Imagine how drunk everyone will be.
You know what? I don't reckon that side of the argument has been taken into account that much.
Not enough.
Not
That's
acknowledged.
The most important.
I reckon people at the AFL may have said, you know what? These are Melburnians. These are Australians. They're not going to alter their routine too much. They're still going to start their barbecues at 8 o'clock in the morning and cracking cans at 8. Do we really want them, turning up for a 6 o'clock? It is a long day.
Anyway.
So that is good news. So when Melbourne play Richmond this September 30, it will be in at 2:30.
Now, the weekend
Better try and get a ticket.
The weekend now was really known about wonderful umpiring across the board.
Oh.
Did you see the umpiring, some of the mistakes? We had one where
that West Coast St Kilda, there was...
Well, the West Coast one, what was it, 28 to 11 or something?
Yeah.
Free kicks, or even 28
to 8. It's been like that in the West for years.
It was shocking. I mean, the thing about St Kilda lost because they couldn't kick straight.
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably the big difference. But, gee, it was helpful having the umpires
it was indeed
massively on this side. The Bulldogs had a big advantage over Sydney with some of those free kicks. Like that rush behind one, I know the interpretations change, and I actually don't think it's all the umpires because...
Yeah, I don't blame the umpires for that one.
I blame them for some. The one that Paul against Poppy for Hawthorn when David McKay was penalised for pushing his back.
Yeah.
That was not was a weak... That was just a terrible umpiring decision. But the rush behind rule, it was never a problem. We've had it for over 100 years. It was a tactic you were allowed to use.
Yeah.
It's a tactic you're allowed to use. Why change it? But they suddenly, Hawthorn did something twice and they overreacted.
Yeah.
The equivalent of chopping off your leg because you stubbed your toe once.
Yeah.
And now,
I agree. You'll get no arguments from me, especially on that one, the rush behind.
That did hurt Sydney. I think Bulldogs were better and would have won.
The AFL, they don't make this clear. I thought the new rush behind rule was after that they were going to bounce it on a blue dot out from the...
Well, they didn't bring that in.
That was the JLT. But to penalise a free kick in the goal square, it's a big ask.
big,
you know,
on a rule that's done by interpretation, because the big part of that is, does the umpire perceive they're under pressure?
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous.
So many of the rules and the rule changes are based on interpretation, which makes it more difficult for the umpires and more frustrating for the players and spectators.
Yeah.
I mean, I was at the Melbourne Carlton game yesterday, and again, the one that stuck out for me watching the game live was how things have changed with the dropping the ball, holding the ball rule. Now, you don't know from one pack to the next how the rule's going to go.
Yeah.
Like now, if you get tackled and the ball bounces out, it can be either play on, you can get tackled and just drop it. It could be play on.
Yeah.
Or it could be dropping the ball.
That's the one that never makes sense to me. Like, dropping the ball, it's like a pretty blatant thing. And if the ball gets knocked out of your hand in a tackle, I mean, that's where they send it. But I'm like, well,
it should be play on. You've been stripped. But then again, you're not
disposing of it properly in a way. So I think, well, that just make it that unless someone kicks or handballs it, it's dropping the ball.
Yeah.
Like,
but then again,
reward the tackler.
Then there's the second one, is if the player with the ball takes on too many tacklers, he might break the first one.
Yeah.
And he looks to be free. As soon as somebody grabs him, bang, he's gone.
Yeah.
And then the other one, and this is one I've been in my bonnet for years. It worked for Melbourne yesterday when Jeff Garlett ran down that Carlton bloke in the last quarter and grabbed the free. But technically, it was just simply a tackle and the ball popped out and the guy wasn't able to kick it properly.
Yeah.
Now, there have been 50 of them in the game that have been playing on.
No, that's my point. That should always be called.
They don't penalise the guy for not being able to kick it, but they're rewarding... They always do it. They reward the guy for running him down.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's got nothing to do with the tackle. I'm glad it happened yesterday, but again, you just cannot pick them.
We should also discuss later on off air your habit of wearing bonnets.
Yes. Yeah, I do wear a bonnet.
It's an odd look for a grown man.
It is, and the bees certainly don't help. the bees just make me angrier.
So you don't have to have the bees in your bonnet all the time. It is a weird thing you've got. It's a weird fashion thing to pick up.
Yeah.
I've got the hat, you've got the bonnet.
No, I always struggle getting into the members too with the bonnet on. You sure you have to wear that, sir? Speaking of which, just completely off the topic, MCC members, I discovered yesterday.
Yeah.
Just one variety of salt.
Just one?
Just one.
Well, someone pointed out that someone sent us a photo on Twitter about that at Etihad there were only two types of special salt. The secret salt seems to have disappeared.
And how secret
That's
that
the
is.
secret. Where is it?
Yeah, find it if you can.
That was odd.
And the reason we bring it up, Etihad were pumping it up last week.
Oh,
they
had
four types of salt. Now, as you say, we had someone say there's only two kinds at Etihad. But MCG, only the one.
Just normal salt.
Just standard white grains of salt.
The classic salt, as I like to call it.
Yeah, salt classic.
Well, that is a shame. But anyway, it was the whole thing around both the umpiring this year because of the AFL making like plans on the fly, basically.
Yeah.
The third man up rule, the rush behind interpretation are just all over the shop. Yeah. And I don't blame all of it on the umpires. I think it's just AFL's not thought this through. The new third man up rule...
It's taken them 1 week for them to work this one out,
but
players.
It's ridiculous. No. Like, you saw all sorts of weird stuff happening that just made no sense the whole game.
Did you see the free to Sean Grigg in the Richmond game?
Yeah, yeah.
Where he's worked it out. He's nominated himself to the umpire. I'll be the ruckman. And then his opponent didn't know that he was the ruckman. And so Grigg got the free kick.
Cyril Rioli did that as well.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's taken them 1 week.
And Cyril had nominated himself in one. And so they had the normal ruckman block the actual ruckman, but not go up.
And then Cyril Rioli, you're 5'7", you know?
Yeah, but because the other guy's blocking the actual ruckman, and that's like it just is ridiculous.
And they keep saying no, but it's rewarding the true ruckman. Well, not when it becomes just.
Why do they have to nominate? What I think should happen is 2 ruckmen have to go contest for the ball, right?
Two players go up when the ball flies up.
It could be any two players, and each team has to work out which two it is.
Yeah. It's like in junior footy, in Auskick and what have you, when, usually it's one of the dads umpiring. When there's a scrimmage and, 10 kids over the ball, spread out, kids, you and you in the ruck. Tosses it up.
Oh, so the ump should nominate. That would actually make a lot of sense, actually.
Well, it would. I mean, it sounds silly, but it actually wouldn't be a bad idea for you want Razor Ray going, Max Gawn
imagine
how
annoyed the coaches would be if umpires could nominate the ruckman. But where you raise a good point that the AFL should explore is having players' dads umpire
the games.
You'd get a lot less back chat.
Oh, you would. Yeah.
It'd be quite good, I reckon.
They'd struggle to keep up, some of them.
Some of them would.
Although,
imagine that.
Dustin Fletcher's kid would be playing.
You say to someone, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, my bloody son got recruited to Freo and now I've got to go umpire his bloody game.
Yeah, I was going to go fishing. So we've got to do the Anzac Day game.
Bloody kids. Why couldn't he have been an accountant like his brother? You don't see me having to show up at budget time, at tax return time. Now, did you watch North versus Geelong?
No, I didn't. I didn't. I was at the MCG yesterday.
That was an absolute.
But I did follow it on the scoreboard, and I remember at 3/4 time, I'm looking up, going, "Oh, geez, North had given Geelong a touch up," and then not seeing until the final result. I thought, geez, they've pinched that one.
North's ability to manufacture that loss was seriously
they would have been savage about that.
Oh,
Brad Scott would have. I didn't see anything after that.
Oh, it was.
How did he handle it?
Oh, like Brad Scott, he just sulked.
Like he normally would, as you expect.
Not that difference from him handling a win, really. He doesn't have a whole lot of light and shade, Brad.
Well, neither of them do. How did Chris Scott handle the win? Pretty much
you could have just swapped
Brad
them.
Handling the loss.
Well, the thing about it, North are better than people have given them credit for, but they're still sitting there.
Still 0-2.
0-2. This is a weird season. There's quite a few teams. Like Richmond are 2-0, but have played not well in either game.
No.
And then you got Sydney, who are obviously a far better side than it actually looks, but are 0-2.
0-2.
They've got quite a few outs.
Hawthorn
are 0-2.
Collingwood are 0-2.
So you got a bunch of teams that you go, are they really as bad as it currently looks? It's going to take a few more weeks for us to really start to get an idea.
That's true.
The teams that are terrible, which we'll move on to.
We'll get on to, but yeah.
Well, Fremantle are horrendous.
Did you see any of that?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing.
What? Tell me, what is going? Yeah, oh, gee, that's a tough Sunday afternoon.
It was brutal. I seriously had a moment where I thought maybe there's something non-sport on TV to watch, which I never do.
But at least you could drink heavily being in your own home.
It was just Ross Lyon.
What is going on?
How is Ross Lyon not under more pressure?
He has to be now, surely.
This team. He's got most of his good players back. It's like they almost made there's just no reason they should. I'm not saying they should be winning premierships, but there is no reason that they were not even playing a basic form of AFL football. No. He's meant to be a defensive coach.
Mastermind.
And Port Adelaide almost got 150 points. Like they were just slamming them. Like it was one of the weakest efforts. You can,
really?
When you see a team and they're just completely like no one is working together.
Yeah.
There is no coordination. There is no game plan.
They're just going through the motion.
They are not playing for him. I don't know whether he just got
Fife going. Is he?
Fine, but I mean, the whole story is where Nat Fife going to be next year.
Well, that's right. I mean,
he's not going to hang around. Ross is
make me captain. Yeah, I'm still out here.
They're stuck with Ross till end of 2020.
Yeah. And they ain't going to fling him because it'll cost them too much money.
And they keep talking about this being a rebuild. I mean, really, what's the I mean...
Well, they were in a grand final 3 years ago. I don't get it.
Yeah, it makes no sense. They're just...
But they must have been appalling yesterday.
Oh, they were. Don't get me wrong.
But are Port any good? Well, a bit hard to tell, I suppose.
They played Sydney, which Sydney haven't been great. But this week, to their credit, they were ruthless against weak opposition, which a good side will do. They absolutely buried them. And they, players, I think, who weren't as good against Sydney, like Robbie Gray, really played well, which will get their confidence up and all that sort of stuff. I mean, when they play the Ramsgate Cup this week, the Ramsgate Hotel Cup, as I like to call it, That's going to be when we find out how good Adelaide and Port are, whether this is a mirage
I've got
or
to
really
say,
Port are
for most,
the real deal.
Most years, this South Australian showdown, I could care less about, but I actually really want to watch this game.
It's going to
It'll
be
a
great.
cracker. It'll be a cracker.
And Port Adelaide, apparently, they've announced that they've sold out the China game.
Have they?
And I was like, wow, that's amazing, you know? And then I found out the crowd's 5,000 people.
But still.
That's what I read yesterday. I'm assuming that's right. But they said we've sold at 5,000
China,
people.
they don't even have Google in China. Have they got ticket tech?
Well,
I'll tell you what would be funny is if 5,000 Chinese turn up and
can't get in.
They can't get in. You should have bought them online.
That's an authentic AFL experience.
It is.
5,000 people is not... I mean, good on them if they've sold it out, fine, but it's not like selling out 40,000 or 50,000. It's 5,000. I mean, your 21st had 5,000 people
exactly.
at it.
No, just the blow-ins. I mean, but if they want to win over the hearts and minds of China, they're going to need bigger groups than 5,000 at a time.
Oh,
it's going to be another 400 years.
Yeah, 5,000 not even a rounding error in China's numbers.
No.
Anthony wrote in, should teams only get 3 points when they beat Fremantle this year? And I think, Anthony, that 3 points might be a little high.
Oh, I was going to say, it's just maybe 2, like you get for a draw.
I think it's just a non-contact practice.
Well, I know they had a shocker last year, Freo, but you've got to think they may well go winless this year, the way they're going. I mean, Carlton aren't a great side, but they showed a bit yesterday. They'll win a few games. They've got some good players. They played with a bit of heart yesterday.
Not a good, a young, not good side that are at least going somewhere towards being better. And, know, I'm not saying they're going to make it to be like grand finals in a couple of years, right? But they're at least, you know, there's some big question marks over some of their recruiting and stuff like that. But there's at least like with Cripps and some of their other key players, and then you look at even Silvani has got potential. Like they genuinely have some players to get vaguely excited about. Freo have got the best player in the league, people argue, in Fife, which is a fair argument. Yep. You know, part of the injuries make some question marks around, and they've got a ton of other decent players. Like they just shouldn't be where they are. No. Like that's the real thing. I'm not saying even they should, but you know. You'd expect of them to. I mean, even last year, they're just playing like they don't care anymore. Like, no wonder all their fans are furious.
He's going, I've left Freo. I'm going to Collingwood. And they're going no good, but it's better to be at Collingwood than Freo.
Collingwood's better than Freo.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it was a weird. Collingwood are in that terrible position where they're just not very good. They don't stink. They're not horribly awful. They're almost in that worst position where they're only okay.
Yeah, they're just okay. And you can't see...
They can't beat anyone decent.
They'll have a couple of good games where they play really well.
They could surprise someone.
But they're not going to trouble, you know, a West Coast in Perth or something or probably Sydney in a final. They're just not good enough for that. So they're in that... mid-rung, which is bad news for Bucks, but, you know, that's where they are at the minute.
That's where they are. Gold Coast, we should add.
How about the Gold Coast?
Well, Rodney Eade did a terrific job setting up Collingwood for its current success. He joined them in 2011, and now he's taken that formula to the Gold Coast for even more impressive results.
And to thump one of our favourite phrases, he is one of your good blokes of football, Rodney Eade.
Rodney Eade, to me, I said, so I said this when he got appointed. I said, Rodney, if Rodney Eade's your answer, you're asking the wrong questions.
Yes.
And
perhaps I think
that wasn't with the benefit of hindsight. And I only bring that because I was not Robinson Crusoe in that view.
No.
The majority of footy fans I spoke to were exactly that view at that time as well, and so were a lot of people I've spoken to at various clubs. They just couldn't believe that Rodney Eade.
He was an AFL appointment virtually, wasn't he? He was pushed in there by the AFL.
I think a little bit, yeah, but it's just
they wanted
someone who'd been in the system, as they always talk about,
an experienced
which is the dumbest thing they ever do, because half the time they pick people who were no good in the system.
Yeah, who've been there, but none of them ever won a premiership.
That's right. So you look at it and just go, well, you know, he just has not worked with that group.
He hasn't.
Ablett's playing like someone who just openly doesn't want to be there. His teammates know he don't want to be there, so they're not. Showing any interest in him at all.
Well, I watched him the other day, and that first quarter, Ablett, he fed income. I know it's a cliche, playing like he didn't want to be there, but he genuinely looked like he could not be bothered. He was just out there for the cash, thinking, "Oh, look, I'll go back to Geelong
He looked
next
like
year."
someone contractually obligated to be somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
With that level of excitement, a bit like Justin Bieber's recent tour.
Yeah.
If I could get the money without doing this, I would, but I can't. I have to get the money.
I'm gonna have to stand up here in front of 80,000 people and mouth the words.
It was just the Suns are truly an awful side. The thing that makes it even worse is they got smashed by the Giants, and no greater comparison do you have of people are angry about the Giants because they were given a lot of advantages and they took those advantages and used them relatively sensibly. Even though they lost last week and everyone will say, but it's a long season. Compared to the Gold Coast, they have been smart. They have not done the dumb things. Even their NRL recruit was better and more sensible than
Carmichael Hunt.
Well, Carmichael Hunt years look like the golden era of the Suns.
Or the white years.
They are just. They need to get back on the cocaine. This is when you look at the Suns, they've been terrible.
And it's not hard to get on the Gold Coast.
Oh,
I'm told.
Really? Especially at Dracula's theatre restaurant.
Nightclub. But you got to watch out for that bootleg cocaine.
The bootleg cocaine is not what you want.
Crushed up Sudafed.
But the Suns are genuinely an awful club. Not just that. I don't hate them. They're too irrelevant to hate. But they're an awful club on the field, and then off the field, their chairman, who's now their first chairman, who's now deputy chair. Yeah. He was around when he came in and said, "We'll win a premiership in 3 years." Yeah. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. Yeah. And then he came in and said, "We'll play finals." Last year they said, "Oh, we'll play finals this year." Well, they were worse, and now they're looking like they'll be lucky to avoid a wooden spoon. It's only because Freo are red hot for it do they look like they've got a chance.
Is it the area? Gold Coast? Well, it's been a Bermuda Triangle for professional sports clubs for years.
Forever.
The Gold Coast.
The NBL have had about 5 clubs there. The NRL's had 3, I think.
They've tried it numerous times.
They had the South East Queensland Crushers. They had Gold Coast.
I can't remember all the teams.
Titans. They've had a bunch, right?
Even Rugby Union had a crack up there, I think, and that didn't work.
Well, the thing about it is, I've always said,
no good.
Putting a team on in the Gold Coast is the equivalent of invading Russia in winter.
Yes.
History shows that this will be the end of you. This is not... And clubs keep doing it. And just the people on the Gold Coast just don't care because they've got beautiful sunshine and beaches.
And everybody there...
And Dracula's theatre restaurant.
Is on a boat or a Dracula's.
Do you like the Gold Coast?
I do like the Gold Coast.
Hang on.
I never
You don't
did.
like... half the places in the world, and you like the Gold Coast.
Look,
you're an odd person.
I should clarify that.
Sergio.
The thing, I don't like the heart of the Gold Coast. Cavill Avenue should be firebombed, but you get a bit out of town, a bit up north, up past Southport, quite a nice place, and it's only 40 minutes from Byron Bay. That's the other plus for the Gold Coast.
Yeah, so if you get quite a bit away from what most people mean by the Gold Coast, it's good.
Well, to be fair, I like Byron Bay and Noosa.
So really, you like it because it's close to something.
Well, you have to fly in there, and it's an easy airport to get out of. That's probably most I can say about it.
Michael Barbaro wrote in, will the Suns players seek asylum to stay in China?
How bad would you be going to want to live in China rather than the Gold Coast?
Oh, I tell you what.
Pop over there, that's what the Gold Coast needs is these, hidden death camps like they have in China,
Well, I think...
where they trade in human organs.
Yeah, well, the thing here is that playing for the Suns is not... why would you... You got to look. Tom Lynch signed that extension last year, I think it was. He's got to be wondering why he did that. Imagine if a guy like that was playing in Melbourne for a Melbourne club, or one of the Adelaide or Perth clubs. How big a star he'd be.
Oh, that's right.
Instead, he's up on the Gold Coast.
He's getting the big dough, but he could get that dough anywhere, and at a really good club.
He's a gun.
Yeah, he is a gun.
Absolute.
And of course, they have to hang on to him. But I do like Michael's question.
Oh, that's
Suns seeking asylum in China.
So it was an interesting round of footy. It was a weird round because
I got 9.
So did I.
Did you?
But how lucky were we on the North one?
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
And we were very lucky on Brisbane losing to Essendon because Brisbane looked like they were going to be
and West Coast over secure. The Saints had them pumped.
That's why it's a weird round because there was about 4 games that you could have legitimately seen it going the other way.
Adelaide Hawthorn, that could until pretty much, I guess halfway through the third quarter, that was going either way. But yeah, I'll take the 9 any time.
It's amazing. And
After
Melbourne being
3
2-0
in round 1.
That was just weird.
2-0.
2-0, sorry.
Yeah.
That's just weird. Like, that's the first time since 2005.
Yeah. The Melbourne's been 2-0. I mean, 2005, I don't think Google wasn't invented. Snapchat wasn't invented. How did the players send nude pics back then, That's how long since Melbourne been 2-0.
I tell you what the interesting thing about 2005, I was looking up something else related to this, and 2005, so you think, since 2005, Melbourne have been rebuilding.
Yeah.
Right? And only now have they got to 2-0.
12 years.
In that time, the human race built the New Horizons probe, finished building it in 2005, sent it to Pluto, took photos, sent it back, have had time to wait, and still we haven't been able to rebuild the Melbourne Football Club.
And they've sent that spaceship to Pluto without a seat for Mark Neal or Cameron Schwab. Just two more. Just 2 more seats.
Do you think their lack of involvement is what made that mission a success? Because that's where you start. It's the people you don't have that help you more than the people you do, true. I often think, in AFL footy.
That is very true.
Moving on from football, or moving from the AFL but to the AFLW, huge story affecting a sport, our favourite sport close to our heart. Women's football recruiters, this is not at AFL level, but, as we've talked about, the groundswell of support and interest in the AFLW has led to huge interest and at club level, at sort of below the AFL level, the suburban leagues.
Well, just on Saturday,
you have personal experience with this.
The VAFA, the Amateur Football Association, they this year the women's teams have come in and they had over the weekend a Lightning Premiership at Elston Wick Park. The head of the Amos, and it got huge. I mean, when I say publicity, traction throughout the amateur football circles, but so many clubs had all their teams there, and it was a huge success. And as you say, it's not the trickle-down effect, but the success of the AFLW, as you quite rightly say, at suburban leagues, at amateur leagues, and at very junior level, girls' footy is just it's a thing. It's a thing now.
It's booming.
It's booming. Yeah.
And the thing that was interesting about it, though, one thing that you and I up to this point, and I think I might be able to change your mind very quickly, have been very pro the AFLW.
Yeah.
And
but I'm happily to have my mind changed on that.
And we see it as a huge success for the equality in sport and the coverage it's received. It's well overdue. And I was totally of that view until I read this. The women's football recruiters to the various AFL teams, and in particular this one, the South Melbourne Districts team. Yeah,
they're a very strong junior club.
Hello, if you're listening. They've raided the Quidditch leagues for players. So our favourite sport here is in real danger.
Well, look, let me from just clarify being raided. This.
So they've actually lured some who have played in the World Championship Australian Drop Bears Quidditch team.
Drop Bears Quidditch.
You and I have been long supporters. Taya Rawson, Henrietta Gelber and Clementine Round have all been poached to play AFLW, and so that's left a huge hole in the Quidditch world.
See, when we first learned about Quidditch, I actually thought that this was a made-up thing, just like the J.K. Rowling has created this.
Oh, what are you saying? Quidditch isn't a real? Well, it was made up by J.K. Rowling. I didn't know that.
At first, when I heard about it, I thought this whole we've got the real sport and world championships.
Based on
this is just some satirical thing that somebody's come up with. But now I find it's actually a genuine, real sport.
Yeah.
And they said, what does it combine? The disciplines of handball, football, lots of running,
magic, sorcery,
black magic, sorcery.
The occult,
vampires, witches in breeches, all those things, and the Quidditch girls are now getting poached for the footy.
They're getting poached.
Gee, as you say,
it's a tough blow for Quidditch.
It leaves a big hole in the drop bears.
See, AFL's like the Borg in Star Trek, where it just tries to take over every other group it runs into contact with.
Yeah.
So I've got real fears about. I'm all for women's football, but if it's going to ruin Quidditch, because Quidditch is one of the only sports we've said before that men and women play in combined teams and it's full contact.
Yes.
Which sounds like a recipe for disaster.
But it works. That's the magic
You know,
that you're talking about.
the equaliser in it is everyone's carrying a broom. So everyone can have it adds a bit of a quality to things.
And you know the blokes with the broom, I'll do it for 2 minutes and go, yeah, that'll do.
So unfamiliar with it as an instrument. So anyway, that's kind of interesting that they're rating Quidditch. It just shows you how big. The fact people would want to leave the big dollars at Quidditch.
Yeah. To go to the big
AFLW.
dollars of AFLW.
Yeah, the huge dollars AFLW. So anyway, well, good luck to them, even though I've got my concerns. But, no one from the world of Quidditch, surprisingly, because our constant promotion of it, and I think as a media outlet, if I can call us that, we've been the ones that have promoted it more than any other. But they don't reach out to us,
We've never been invited to a match.
No.
I actually would like to go to a game this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Will you dress as a wizard if you go?
No, I'll wear my bonnet, though, full of bees.
Now, just as a follow-up to a story we've covered extensively as well, but it keeps happening, Serge.
It does.
We've had another horse test positive for ice. This time in South Australia.
It's an epidemic.
This would be. It's about the 10th in the last couple of years. It is out of control. This is a South Australian racehorse that's tested positive to ice.
And this is where the tip of the iceberg. Forgive the pun. In that, it's
these are just the ones we're catching.
They're just the ones we're catching.
Yeah.
These are horses that got careless.
Now, this is the horse. It was in South Australia. Lloyd Kennewell is the trainer. He was fined $10,000 because a horse he trained, and the horse's name was The Show Goes On, returned a positive swab for ice after winning a race on December 7th. Now, not only did he win the race, he also swiped a radio from one of the cars out the front, which sort of tipped stewards off. Now, Lloyd, of course, denies any knowledge of how this happened, but it has been sort of semi-proven that if someone who just happens to be on ice seems to touch a horse, they can, and I don't know how that works, right?
Well, I don't know if a strapper has had it on his fingers or something and gives the horse an apple, or is that feasible?
Is that how it works? It sounds a bit
sounds
a bit sus, but anyway.
But really, we should look at this, for the horses as this is not a disciplinarian problem. This is a medical issue.
Do you think there should be a 3-strike rule?
Only a 3-strike
for
horses.
Because this horse now has been shamed as an ice. Right. He'll never live down the fact that he was an ice.
It's like we said the other week, the racehorse Players Association, headed by Mr. Ed, they need to come out strongly here.
Yeah.
On a 3-strike system.
I know, where is the privacy?
There's too many horses, But why do they begin hair tests?
Well, it's a lot of hair tests. The thing is,
you won't be a fine cotton to come if you see a racehorse line up that's completely shaven. You know he's got something to hide.
That might be how they're going to deal with it. Gee, a shaved horse would look weird.
It would.
That'd be kind of creepy.
Completely shaved. You can just shake up a can of spray and put the number on the side.
Right. There's an idea. So anyway, it's a real worry. I'm very concerned about what's going on in racing with ice.
There's a lot going on.
Now, getting to our listeners' questions.
Yes.
They're coming in thick and fast now. The AFL's on.
Yeah.
People are getting in with it because this is their chance, their platform to just basically bag another team that they don't like. Nordberg has got ball rolling, wrote in, with the Bombers starting 2-0, can they emulate their successful 8-1 start in the 2012 season?
Look, on one hand, you'd kind of like to think so. That'd be funny.
That was a fun season for the Bombers.
As long as they crash and burn in the second half of the year.
Gee, they don't want anything that resembles the 2012 season. I'm trying to make my mind up at how good the Bombers are. I mean, they gave up something like a 43-point lead to Brisbane and actually were behind in the fourth, but they did steady and come back.
They do look good when they're on, I've got to say.
Yeah, it's funny. All the players, like Paddy Ryder for Port, all the players that seem to miss a year of footy seem to have come back like the rest of, like it turns out a 12-month preseason is actually quite beneficial for people. So they've actually come back okay.
Although Jake Melksham still needs to work on his disposal.
Well, he's
turned it
back,
over too often yesterday.
He's come up, well, that's nothing to do with, that's just called reaching your ceiling. So that's a good point. Can they meet that wonderful 2012 season? Gee, they're going to be insufferable Bomber supporters if they go all the way this year.
Oh yeah, I genuinely hope they crash and burn.
I might move to a completely different country, I think. Mark Garraway writes in, is NASA going to start training astronauts at Spotless Stadium on account of it being the only ground in Australia with no atmosphere?
Oh, that's
harsh, Mark.
It's harsh, but it's looking pretty good, that question, I got to say.
We'll see how Spotless goes. I mean, gee, they're up there. They're really pushing uphill their win over Western Sydney.
It's a shocking place, Spotless Stadium. Even Adele had no atmosphere there when she played.
Is that where she went? That's because she couldn't get out of the box. Now, Stephen Koppelman wrote in, should Richmond start resting some players for the finals?
Yeah, maybe all of them. Dusty, Cochin, Revolt.
That was a terrible game on Thursday night.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Terrible.
No.
You couldn't come out of that thinking Richmond are going to go far.
No.
You know, they're just... they're all over the shop. Their skills are appalling. They're lucky they were playing Collingwood. That's all I can really say about that game. I wanted my eyes to fall out of my head at some point and just never be able to see again. That's how I felt about that one.
Or just rip your eyelids off, screw them up and turn them into earplugs. You know?
Ryan Lang wrote, given the clear effect to Hanbury's form since he stopped drinking, should alcohol be on the ban list by ASADA because of its performance-enhancing ability? Now, do you know about this story?
Yeah, all right. You've sort of gone round in a circle here because Daniel Hanbury, he stopped drinking and can't get a kick, basically.
Yeah, he stopped drinking. The last drink he had apparently was back and hasn't drank since he was a big drinker, even though he admits that. He like in terms of he'd have a party.
Good saviour, boy.
Yeah, he'd like go out and big party and stuff like that. And he was always... And... since the grand final and bid to get here, he's overcoming an injury, but then to get fit and have a good year, given up the
demon grog,
the grog, and he's been terrible ever since.
Can't get a kick. So what Ryan's suggesting is that alcohol is performance enhancing,
which we've always known.
Yeah, well, of course it is. If you don't, it is certainly is for us.
I couldn't have driven taxis all those years without. That drinking on the job.
Oh, I couldn't do this podcast without a couple of snifters.
Oh, can you imagine?
Oh, imagine doing this sober.
Imagine listening. Do you think anyone listens to it sober?
Oh, look, if you are listening to this sober, I strongly urge you to have a drink. It'll work better for you and for us.
We are so much funnier when you're all plastered. So anyway, it is interesting that he's dropped off form. I think alcohol is... Drunk football would be a great sport.
I was about to say it's a tradition in football. Alcohol and football go hand in hand.
They sure do.
It's only the NRL that muck things up for everyone.
Like horse
sometimes.
Racing and ice.
Yeah, exactly.
They just go together.
It's only rugby league players that spoil it for the rest sometimes with the grog.
Too Long in the Bush wrote, any truth in the rumour James Frawley wants to be traded to the D's?
Wants to go to
a club that could win a premiership. Yeah. I don't think we're quite there yet. He did time it well to actually get a premiership.
He did win a flag though, Frawley.
So we should remember that and he'll have that for life. But I actually say there's a big focus on the fact that Hawthorn are struggling because they let Mitchell and they left Lewis go. But you've got to also remember they've recruited a lot of Richmond and Melbourne's players over the last few years. Yeah. And that is like Vickery, Frawley.
You'd think blokes who can't get a game at Richmond or Melbourne aren't going to take you to another flag.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, what are they doing? And that's not how you win.
And how are they going to go the next couple of years, Hawthorn? They have no draft picks. They traded them all out to get O'Meara and Mitchell. Yeah. And Tom Mitchell. So
O'Meara had 36 possessions.
Oh, he's a good player. I'll grant you that.
30 of them were handballs.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's
Williams type of.
Yeah.
Well, Clayton Oliver's a bit like that. He had 35 yesterday, and I reckon probably 23 were probably handballs.
So They are, well, it will be interesting to see how they go, but I always think, you're right off Hawthorn for the longer term when you peril because they seem to keep coming back like a weed. Matt Neal wrote in, do North need to get rid of more talented players to improve? It is counterintuitive.
This is another roundabout kind of thing, but it's not a bad idea.
I interviewed Todd Goldstein for something recently, and I said to him, last year North got rid of all their good players. Did they just forget they had you? He was a really nice guy, actually.
And even
he's been injured
now.
Yeah, well, that's a huge loss for them. But they were, I don't know, sometimes there was always a bit of a belief that some of those players were holding North back a bit.
Well, who'd they get rid of up north? Ryan Bastanak. They sent him to the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
They had big high hopes for him.
Yeah.
They got him about the same time as Zeeble. Zeeble's now the skipper and Bastanak's at the Gold Coast, so that'll tell you something.
You retweeted, which is an interesting Twitter handle.
It is.
I reckon your show could use more British and European soccer chat. I'd offer to be a correspondent, but I'm totally unqualified. Oh, hang on. Spot on there.
He's picked this show well, hasn't he? So if we were to go down that path, a bit of British and European soccer.
We can totally do it because we don't know anything about AFL.
Yeah, or certainly European soccer.
I follow the Premier League a fair bit, but the problem I found with the Premier League that always has prevented me being a fanatic is just having to stay up late or get up early.
Oh, look,
I like sleep too much.
The thing about European soccer, I mean, or did you see that statue of Ronaldo?
Yeah.
Oh, that was fantastic.
Google the Ronaldo statue if you haven't seen it. It is the worst likeness in history. He looks like a
cross-eyed Dave Hughes.
He looks like a sort of a Simpsons version of him. It's weird.
Yeah, he a brass or bronze version of.
I used to always watch
player.
A lot of Premier League, and I used to, especially when it was on Foxtel, and I used to enjoy it because I'd get up and I'd watch it or something, and it was very easy not that long ago to absolutely avoid any results.
Yes.
But now you listen to breakfast radio, they announce the major games in the Premier League, So if you back for any major club or anything like that, you just all the big games.
Lost to Manchester City.
Which it used to get no coverage, and there were actually benefits in no coverage.
True.
Because it was like when the 49ers had Jared Hay and they started announcing 49ers results on the air.
Even
and
when
I thought,
he didn't play.
Even when he wasn't playing, and you'd think, gee, I never expected this day where the news bulletin would lead with the 49ers winning or losing.
Well, my problem I've always had with European soccer is not anything wrong with the game or the standard. I can just never keep up with all the leagues and championships over there. There's the European this league, and then there's the Dutch league, and then there's the UEFA Champions Series that still seems to include most of the teams from all these other leagues. I can just never keep up with it.
You're time poor. You don't.
I can't concentrate on that sort of stuff for too long. It'll be pretty straight up and down.
Well, see, I follow the A League a lot. I like the A League, but I do follow like the results and everything in the Premier League, watch it a bit. But I do find since it's gone off Foxtel, it's been harder to watch. So anyway, why would we let that stop us talking about?
And if we want another, we might give you a call. You retweeted.
We'd like to welcome you retweeted to the podcast. Now that's us for today. Now I should remind everyone a couple of things. This Saturday night, there's few tickets left, not many, to me interviewing Dane Swan.
I'll get along to this. This will be a cracker.
So that's on Saturday night. So if you do, I'll put the link in the show notes. But if you do want to come, it'd be great to see you. But we're very close to selling out both. There's 2 shows that night. So if you want to come, you better get onto that. I've been told it based on how they work these things out that it will sell out, the second show. The first one I think is pretty much sold out. So that should be fun.
That'll be a cracking night.
I've started my research into Dane Swan.
Oh, you have?
Yeah, did you know he used to play for Collingwood?
Did he really?
So that's the level of depth.
And he's covered. He's got the tough stickers from neck to toe.
So that's about the depth I'm going to go into really on the night. No, I've been reading his book.
Have you?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah. All footy books.
Most sporting books are as bad as each other.
They're often fine if you're interested, and I am in this, because especially because I'm going to be interviewing, but I am anyway. Like, they're fine if you're into it, and it always has one or two things that you learn that are kind of interesting. But there's a lot of just, and then this happened and he felt bad, and then this happened and it was good. Like, there's a lot of just, because what else can you do? You know?
That's why I can't stand most ex-cricketers' books.
Well, they're even worse.
It's like them we played.
And it goes in a great. And I felt
I made 15 and it was a bad pitch and
yeah. It's just you feel like you're playing in a test reading it. So that's on this Saturday. We're going to announce our tour dates soon. We are getting very close to that. You're doing the other podcast.
I'm doing the Details Melbourne podcast.
The first one of that was very good.
Yeah,
if you're a D supporter, you have to listen to it.
Yeah, you'll find that on the SEN, Radio SEN website, or go to Facebook and look for Details.
And the D's have never lost since you started that podcast.
Well, exactly right. Should have started it 10 years ago then, shouldn't we?
That's right.
Well, before podcasts even existed. But, we've got another one coming up this week. And I think we're talking to Channel 9 correspondent Clint Stanaway.
Oh, there you go.
He's a big Demon supporter. We've got some other Melbourne supporters coming up, Hamish Blake and talking to a few of the players, hopefully.
I'm not upset you haven't invited me on.
No. Well, you're running your own cottage industry out of your
out of your basement.
Out of your basement, like an Austrian father.
Jeez. Too soon, Serge. Too soon. As in, it will always be too soon.
It was about 11 years ago.
We should also add that you can become a supporter of our podcast and the stuff I write, the nonsense I write. We really appreciate our supporters. It's terrific people actually supporting us. It surprises us every day. And
we'll be doing another potty this week.
Yeah, and then we've got, I might have a guest for Thursday.
Okay.
But we've got big guests the week after. We can't announce it yet.
Can't say who it is, but it is a genuine big name.
Yeah, we've got some good ones coming up. So, and I think we're going to have another one on Thursday too, but we'll be doing Thursday regardless.
Yes.
So thank you everyone once again. If you get a chance, like us or comment on iTunes, rate us.
Do that.
Preferably a good rating.
And just one further thing. All the people who have won T-shirts for being the best question, or some who have gone out of their way and actually purchased them.
Yeah.
It'd be great if you were to take a photo of yourself wearing it and put it on social media somehow. We're just
a few people will do that.
Yeah, we're hoping we can get something
with pants on though
to go viral.
With pants on, I'd prefer.
Well, more chance of going viral without pants, but either way, we'd be happy if you did that.
All right, well, we'll see you later this week.